Round one of the Absolute Beginners IndyCar League chucked the drivers directly into the action in a trial by fire at Michigan International Speedway. One of the fastest ovals for the DW12 did not disappoint with plenty of action and a thrilling three-lap chase to the checkers. But drivers are now forced to switch gears, quite literally. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve plays host to round two, and its foreboding walls will take no mercy on anyone who dares to push things a little too far. Will anyone turn out to be a force in both disciplines? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round two of the Absolute Beginners IndyCar League, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Dawson Brock. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Dawson, Montreal's track is certainly not for the meek. What are the drivers up against today?
Well, Joe, the drivers will be making their way around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's a 2.71-mile track located on Montreal's Isle Notre Dame, a man-made island in the St. Lawrence River. Based on the site's existing roads, the circuit debuted in the 1978 Canadian Grand Prix and has been the site of the Grand Prix ever since. In addition to Formula One, it has also hosted events in FIA Sports Car Championship and in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series 2. The track itself is sort of a hybrid between a street circuit and a natural road course. The course also has a unique blend of high and low speed through its 13 corners. The place to watch all day will be in the final chicane, where if drivers make one hiccup, they will meet the infamous Wall of Champions. To take a look at this and more of what is in store for today, let's hop on board the GSRC DW12 and take a ride around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman of the GSRC DW12, so let's do a lap around Montreal. Turns 1 and 2 are a combination of a chicane and a hairpin, so it presents a unique set of difficulties. A fast entry while compromising the line to give yourself a decent exit is the struggle that every driver faces when they hit this combo. From there, it's a short stretch to 3 and 4, but the real trick is to make sure you aren't too hot on the exit. That wall to the right will punish the greedy with no mercy. After that, it's flat out through 5, and then you've got to get the car lined up for 6. You want to bring it in tight to the inside of the first part because you'll need it to allow a better line through 7. From here, we hit the backside of the course along this gentle curve, but when you spot the bridge, it's time to set up for 8. A lot of drivers struggle with overshooting the chicane because of the speed you're entering with. Be wary of clouding those large curbs as well. Now we come to the only potential passing spot that isn't a chicane, and that's the casino hairpin. This is another spot where it's easy to overcook the entry, but the critical aspect of the turn is the exit, since you'll be dumped onto the longest straight of the track. You might see some over-under moves here, and definitely a few drivers tucking into the draft of the car ahead. And really, other than the hairpin, this is the only other great space to make an overtake. Your car will be flying by the end of this stretch, and then you'll be braking into one of the slowest corners on the circuit. However, beware the Wall of Champions. It hasn't earned its reputation for nothing, and anybody rattling over the curbs or exiting too fast is going to pay in the form of a car repair bill. Hopefully, though, your machine is whole and you finished a lap around Montreal.
That should give you an idea of just how close the walls are around this street-like circuit. But we have one round done, so that means we've now got points on the board that we can cover. So let's start off with the driver standings. Henry Bennett's win last round means that he is, of course, at the top of the charts. And you can see the little droplets that are grayed out up in the upper right-hand corner. That means that they will have 3 drop weeks, but none of them are counted at this moment. Austin Espedy sits in second with Novak not far behind in third. AJ Burton a little farther back in the 4th place. And then Matt Kingsbury only a single point behind him in 5th. There's, of course, a teams championship, rather. And Dawson, what's that look like?
Well, you got Last Lap Motorsports in first, the only team to have both drivers in the top 5. That's Zach Novak and Matt Kingsbury. They lead right now with 69 points. Team Talent down back 17. That's Espedy and Liam Quinn. Snoopy Dog Motorsports back just 1 from 2nd place. And then after that, Stealth Autosport 1 from them. That's going to be a great race all year, I have a feeling. And then Log Kyle Vortex Sim Racing back 26 from the lead, rounding out the top 5.
Of course, if anybody hasn't watched the previous round, which is the only one that we've had in this Absolute Beginners IndyCar League, let's get you up to speed. We are in the very first season ever of this series, and this is race 2. They're going to have 12 over the course of it, and they get 3 drop weeks that don't count. The race today is 37 laps. That equates to about 100 miles. And there are no cautions out there. It is a straight run to the finish. So going to be very different from what you saw 2 weeks ago at Michigan International Speedway. Now, it is also open setup, and there's no fuel restrictions, which means they will need at least one stop. You can see the max fuel stint they're expecting to be about 19 to 21 laps, and that could really come into play depending on what kind of traffic you're stuck in. They do have an incident cap. If you get 20 incidents, which includes going off track, spinning, hitting other cars, or hitting the wall, then 20 of them, and you are out of this race. They also have no fast repairs. Honestly, if you hit the wall, your day is probably done as it is anyways, Dawson, because, boy, this place takes no mercy.
Yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about the final chicane with the Wall of Champions, and I've already seen a couple of cars here in practice that get up on two wheels and end up flipping into the wall. These Indy cars not able to take very much damage, a very fragile wing. You know, if you bend up a tire, anything like that, and you're looking at quite a bit of time in the pits. So I think the story's not going to necessarily be the fastest guy, but who can be most consistent and keep that car clean all day.
And, you know, that makes me wonder, because even though it's not the largest field that we've seen that's out there today, is attrition going to be a problem? Is this a case where maybe if you're a driver towards the back, you back it down to 95% and maybe run under your max to just bring it home and pick up spots as cars fall by the wayside?
You know, I think it'll be interesting after we look at qualifying, you know, see who is where. I know right now, we talked about it last week, Zach Novak finishing in third. He's not been doing too great in practice, and I think if you're in a situation like that, you really can't push it. You need to just have what comes to you. Now you look at Henry Bennett. He took the win last week, and he looks pretty fast this week as well. I think he's going to, you may want to push the note if you're up front and get away from these guys, but I definitely think if you are, you know, if road racing, this IndyCar, they go both places, so if road racing is not your thing, definitely just take it easy and see what comes to you and see what the cards play out.
The other way that it's different from the oval side, a lot of your speed comes from the setup, and it does to a degree on the road side with these high downforce machines. Obviously, they're very intricate. There's a lot that you can do to fiddle with them. But I almost feel like it's a bit of is it a toss-up out there today on whether you go high downforce or low downforce, and what would you choose?
Boy, you know, I mean, this is a really interesting track when you look at it. You know, you have the tight chicanes where that low downforce can be a real hindrance to how your car drives, but then you look and you have them straightaways and long straightaways running up to that final chicane, and I mean, honestly, I think it'll be interesting to see what drivers opted for. Just thinking, I think they went high downforce. I think that's just my personal thought, but I mean, man, I wonder if we'll see, you know, a difference to where drivers who are really pulling on them on the straights versus guys who are pulling through them tight and slow corners.
So we watch qualifying work its way through. Right now, Jan Schwitter is currently up on the pole. Henry Bennett, we wondered who was going to be strong both on road and on ovals. Well, Henry is looking at the front row currently. There's still time left in qualifying, however, and it is only 3 laps that they get. So I believe, checking to see which drivers have yet to turn laps in, we're looking at Ollie Kwaka. And as he comes through, he has not put a lap time in yet. In fact, that was his first lap potentially, because I don't see one on the board for him yet. Meanwhile, Richard Tam currently sitting in the 8th position, not looking too bad as he comes through the final chicane up to the Wall of Champions. And the other thing about that corner and some of the other chicanes as well is the cut course penalties. Is that going to be a major player in today's race? Are drivers going to have to watch out for those?
Well, I think they will. Obviously, you know, you get that cut time penalty. It's a real bummer, and you end up losing a lot of time. And in most cases, you're going to lose a couple of positions. But I think what drivers are going to need to do is, if you come into that corner and you miss that braking zone, know enough to cut that. Because if you don't cut that and you try to make that corner, you're more than likely going to end up hitting that wall and your race is going to be ended. So I think drivers, if they come in there 2-3 wide, something crazy happens, I think they have to use that almost to their advantage.
Up at the top of the timing sheets, Henry Bennett now off the front row. Teemu Ronko. Now, I don't remember seeing him in the first race. Do you recall if he was in there, Dawson?
I'm not 100% sure. I thought maybe he was, but I don't know. Let me see if I can look.
All right. While he's digging that up, Ali Turkin currently sitting in fourth. And how about Johan Vanderbilt? We saw him have a bit of a spin out of the final corner, but he's got one more lap to try and get this done, and he's sitting in the top 5. We know Johan is good on the road courses. We've seen him. Oh, and a big mistake into 8 and 9 is going to mean that this is probably not a good lap for him, unfortunately. So I think his qualifying is going to do no better than 5th from what we'll see. But as I was saying, we've seen Johan in the Skippy. Much different car, still open wheels, a lot less downforce, a lot less reliance on downforce, a lot less power, a lot smaller. And the question is he as good on the roadside in these high downforce cars as he is in the low downforce Skippy? It's looking like it from his speed today, but the question is, can he bring home a win out here as he comes through to finish his lap? James King as well, coming around that hairpin. He's sitting a little bit farther behind in the 7th spot. Less than 2 minutes left to go in the qualifying. This is going to be... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Timo, I just found out that he was not actually in the race. It was Teemu Toika, so they share that same first name. So different guy this week.
The Finns need to get more creative with their first names, I guess. Like we really need to give them license to make it harder on us to pronounce as we watch these last few seconds of the qualifying. The one thing I love about this series, Dawson, is the fact that it goes to both road and oval like you see in the real Indy cars. Really forces versatility out of the drivers. You can't just be a specialist out there. You need to be a little bit of all of the things out there.
Yeah, and talking to the drivers last week after the race, we were asking them, where is your preference, road or oval? And just about every one of them had a preference to one or the other. We found out that a lot of these guys were road drivers, in fact. And, it is really interesting. And I think you need to have that balance and that, I think, the setup knowledgeability, too. I mean, it's two different monsters trying to set up a road car versus an oval car. So you have to be very versatile to end up like, Henry Bennett right now up in 3rd place. That's really impressive to dominate both sides so far.
So watch James King. Ali Kwaka actually is on his final timed lap, and he's well down the order, sitting in 14th. We ride on board his nose now. Wow, you can see how much speed these cars have to carry through that last chicane. And as he comes to the line, he's at a 1:22.1. Oh, and wow, he jumps it up. A 1:21.5 into 10th. Crucial final moments for Ali Kwaka to get himself a better starting position, because it is not going to be easy to make up spots, despite there being passing opportunities here, Dawson. The narrow nature of this track really makes it precarious to try and get through. But as qualifying is over, let me make sure to see whether we are rolling start. We are a rolling start, so we got a little bit of time here. On the pole, Jan Switter, as we mentioned before, he stuck it there and nobody was able to topple him. Teemu Ronko starts in the 2nd spot. Then row 2, we get Henry Bennett. He's on a win on the first one. Can he move up the order to try and take a second one this season? Ali Turkin next to him in 4th. Johan Vanderbilt will be in 5th, and then Liam Quinn starts in P6 today. Then we go to 7th. David Burns, followed by James King in 8th, and Michelle Rugenbrink in 9th. Ali Kwaka, we followed his final lap, and he's going to round out our top 10. Dawson?
Just missing the top 10 is going to be Richard Tam. It was less than 0.04 of a second. They're just sitting him outside of that top 10. Andrew Kinsella going to start 12th. Zach Novak 13th. Michael Hafeldason going to start 14th. Sarah Dove 15th. Fabian Youngblunt 16th. Matt Kingsbury 17th. And Ray Kingsbury 18th. And then Thomas Kick 19th. And Eric Mick 20th.
There is your field out there today, waiting for the roof pace car to take off on less than half a pace lap. They just get a bit of a straightaway, they work it through that final chicane, and then they are released to go racing for 37 laps around here in round 2 of the Absolute Beginners IndyCar League. Just a few cars. Henry Bennett waiting to get out onto the grid. Ray Kingsbury and Eric Mick have still yet to line up. Obviously, drivers tend to take this time to try and make sure they have the right setup in the car, get everything organized in real life, get your setup to your comfort level that you want, and whatnot. As Roof Pace Car finally peels away. Dawson, this is going to be revealing, I feel like, because we saw who's strong at Michigan. We saw who has good pace, who's good at getting a setup, who can handle all those factors, but this is a lot tighter confines.
Yeah, and you look at Michigan, the wide corners and everything, plenty of room to race around this track and the nature of it. Everybody's going to be right next to each other, and you're going to have to make friends and hopefully not enemies for most of this race.
See them stack up waiting, and Jan Schwitter now takes off after he backs them up, and that works out well to his advantage as he gets a huge leap on second place. Teemu Ronko, they all stack up together coming into turn 1 into the Senna S. Notorious for causing some issues. I see a little contact with Rook and Brink, but nothing major. Everybody through the first corner, Dawson.
Going in here, back all the way to 8th. It looks like, yep, now it's all single file throughout the field, so everybody getting it situated out. Well done for this field.
Long race, and these drivers know it as you see them break down for turn 6. Your order: Schwitter, Ronko, Turkan, Quinn, and Vandenbelt for the top 5 cars. Down into turn 8 now. Another potential passing place under the bridge. And then to the only braking zone. Oh, and we got a spinner. That is Sarah Dove. Let's see, how did this one come about? Looks like actually into 8. Maybe a little too much curb there, Dawson?
Yeah, it looked like maybe just upset at the car, just not the right way. It looks like no damage, though. She should be okay.
Yeah, in turn 8, we saw in the replay, you saw a little jump as she clipped that sausage curb too hard, and that's what unsettled it through 9 that sent it the rest of the way around. They've managed to make it through Wall of Champions for the first time. And as they cross the line, Schwitter is your leader. Ronko still second. Turkin still third. Quinn fourth. Vandenbelt fifth. No change.
Well, we talked about Ali Koika. We followed his qualifying lap, just got into the top 10. He's already up to 6. So a great start to this race for Ali.
Looking very strong is the Finn. Excuse me, Diatch driver. Excuse me. Hit the straightaway just that takes you along the river under the bridge. Heavy braking into here. We got a bit of a battle for second starting to close in. In fact, they're not far behind our leader, Jan Schwitter, and Ronko takes a bit of a peek into the casino hairpin. Has to back out of it. Little lockup from Schwitter. No harm, no foul. And now they come down the backstretch. What can Teemu do here? He's going to be within the slipstream. And as a reminder, they do have 10 push to pass throughout this race. Works just like the real Indy cars. Bad exit.
Really, wow. Oh, they just get really close to that wall.
Fast cars are going to have to. But bad exit out of the Wall of Champions from Teemu. Actually sent some farther back from Schwitter and into the clutches of Turkin. Meanwhile, understand that Novak may have had some issues. He loses a couple spots, which might be worth the replay. Outbrakes himself into the Senna S. Let's take a look at this. And as he has to cut across the grass, you'll see it here as he just about locks him up and actually has to catch the car here, Dawson.
Wait.
Apparently Ronko had an issue too as he's lost second place. That was down the backstretch as Turkin got a fantastic run. You see here out of turn 7. Blocks to the inside. Excuse me, he dives to the inside. And Turkin's going to get it nice and clean down into 8. Brilliant move from the International Club driver.
You know, that's another thing that make these Indy cars really great. You get that slipstream, and you get these long straightaways at some of these tracks, and you can see a lot of passing opportunities just get made because of that.
Looks like Ronco's not going to give up on it, as he's staying glued to the gearbox of Ali. They duck it down into turns 3 and 4. And then around the very blind, turn 5 that leads directly into 6. Heavy braking into here. Now we're starting to see Ali stretch his legs out and pull away. And Novak having more problems. Woo, big problems this time. This is out of turn 4. Braking into the corner. Oh, and once again, we're seeing a little too much curb on the first half. Messes it up for the second half. And thankfully, nobody gets into him. Also, apparently, James King having a problem. Oh, on the gas a little too quick, I think there, Dawson.
Yeah, it looked like just maybe a little bit of curb upset the car and then got it back onto that throttle.
Sends him down to 14th. And Novak is all the way down to 19th now. He's the last car running. He is struggling. You mentioned that Novak is a pro driver last round. I'm assuming on the oval side, correct?
Yeah, he runs the Peak Antifreeze series really good in that stock car, in fact. So the road side, this Indy car, a little bit new to him. So he's kind of been relying on other guys to help him out and get him the right setups. And, you know, you look at his team being in the top of that championship, they're in a good spot.
Sardov comes in. Now, let's see, where was how many laps did they have on fuel here? 19 to 21. We are on lap 5. This is way too early. Michael Hofladezen, seeing him off track. Let's figure out what happened on the replay. Looked like turn 6. Oh, trying to check up to stay out of Andrew Kinsella. Rear of the car comes around. Thankfully does not hit anything, but he's going to have to return in 12th, having lost a number of positions. In fact, he's being hounded by Henry Bennett, last round's winner, who's sandwiched between that car and James King. Now we're seeing that Bennett has pitted already. Maybe we got the fuel numbers wrong. Whoa, a jink to the right. A little bit late for a defense on James King. That looked a little naughty to me, Dawson.
Yeah, guys getting a little bit playful here early on. Just gotta keep it steady. Your long race still to come.
Gotta be careful about your moves. Obviously not. Whoa, and that was Haflidason spinning again, who we saw get narrowly avoided as we rode on board. Whoa, and another attempt. James King spins it, and that sends the car that was with him through the grass. There's the first incident there. And this is Bennett up ahead. Basically just decides to dive out of it and save the car for another day.
Their car making that corner.
Watch on board the UK&I driver of James King. Tries to send one up the inside, locks up the rears. Thankfully, he stopped off the track and everybody's able to cycle through. Early days, and we're seeing a lot of drivers with problems here around this track.
I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier. You know, do you push the number right away or do you keep it consistent? It looks like guys who are going to keep it consistent are really going to get rewarded.
Certainly has helped a few of them as we watch this battle for second. Turkin was caught by Ronco for a bit, but now I think he's turned up the wick a little bit and left him behind. Of the big movers that we've seen, Fabian Jungbluth has gone from 16th to 11th. We've also got a jump from Ali Cuoca going from 10th to 6th. Most drivers starting to get themselves a little bit of track out there, and that's something that we see both on the road and oval side, is the wake of the car ahead kind of affecting the downforce of the car behind. And unfortunately, while it brings cars a little bit more together because of the huge slipstream on the oval, Dawson, we're seeing the opposite here. It seems like it's spreading them apart.
Yeah, and I think it's they will catch each other on these long straights, but you get tucked in behind them, and that car just doesn't want to turn. I mean, these cars, they depend on that clean air so much that, ooh, Timu around!
Oh. Third place driver loses out into the first corner, and this is absolutely driver error. You see the rear just pendulum the rest of the way around. He locks him up, keeps it from sliding into the wall. Just returns to racing. Well, Timu, having started it on the front row, has now slotted down into 7th. He's going to have to calm himself down a little bit. Maybe he could get back into things through the pit strategy. There are no cautions again with this being a road course race.
I really wonder with that whole pit strategy here. You know, we saw Henry Bennett come in and he's still running, but I wonder if there was maybe a penalty there, because if our fuel numbers are right, that something's not right there. Henry's going to have to pit again.
That is definitely not a scheduled stop. Could have been just not putting the right amount of fuel in. These drivers, as I mentioned, during the gridding, they have to try and make sure that their setup is correct, and that includes how much fuel you start with. Whoa, and a spin. Who is that? Quinn, coming out of the Wall of Champions, manages to keep it from hitting the wall, thankfully. Oof, panic mode. As soon as that rear started to brake, you could see trying to steer into it. And he gets it going once again, but slots down into 9th.
Another time, another car hitting that curb, and it just really upsetting these cars.
Well, these things are incredibly tightly sprung, aren't they, Dawson? And especially on the road course, I would think that you've got to have them very low to the ground, so any sort of bump is probably just terrible on the handling.
Yeah, I think it just, you get that undercarriage of the car, and if you get it to where it lifts the car up a little bit, you lose that contact between the track and the tire, and a lot of grip there, and with the car sitting down. So I think that's just, it's tires. You load off them tires, and it gets weightless.
We may have our first victim of the walls of Montreal. Ray Kingsbury coming into turn 4, it looks like. Started in 3. You're going to see here as he starts to lose the car. And then as it slithers in, he just can't keep it out of the tires. Going to watch on board. Actually, I don't think there's tires there. I think he just smacked it into the concrete.
Cuts that first turn a little bit short, and then...
Well, Ray Kingsbury has taken a tow, didn't want to try and get that car turned around. He may still yet come out, but right now he's out of the car, so that looks to me. Oh, and Timu Ronco with more problems coming out of turn 2. These cars have a lot of downforce. Oh, but you can see here, Dawson, a very graphic demonstration of how tricky the amount of power these Indy cars wheeled is.
Yeah, you have that downforce, but in order for that downforce to be working, you have to have air going over the car, and when it's not going over that car, you're not getting that downforce. And with as much power these Indy cars have, like you said, really tricky. You got to be able to manage that throttle in them low-speed corners.
Well, Ronco having a horrible day. This is good news for Johan Vandenbelt, who's got himself onto the podium. Remember, he started in 5th position. Granted, he is about 6 seconds back from 2nd place right now as we watch the Sprite car put yet another lap in. He's being chased by Ali Cuoca, who has been on an absolute tear. Oh, and David Burns now with issues. This is again out of the Wall of Champions. Even though we're on replay live, he's actually still stationary, waiting for a gap. Oh, he's almost saved it about twice there.
I don't know. It just seems like these low-speed corners are right now a really big problem for everybody in the field.
Certainly seems like it. It's almost ironic to me that this was a league that was mostly on the roadside, Dawson, and I think there was some fears that maybe the oval races would be a lot of chaos and a lot of wrecking. I feel like we've seen so much more here than we did at Michigan.
Yeah, you know, I wonder because, boy, they did a great job at Michigan. You know, they put on a great show for us. And, you know, I look at the track, and it's at 92 degrees, so that's pretty warm. I don't know, maybe if that has a little bit, maybe we just got to wait for this track to get rubbered up and get a little more grip on the surface.
We're watching the replay. Liam Quinn getting past Andrew Kinsella. A nice little run. Sticks his nose into the inside under the bridge to turn 8. Job done. Oh, and Kinsella got him back somewhere. While we were watching that replay, are we going to see it once more? Liam Quinn taking a look, coming up to the Wall of Champions, decides better of it. As they roll the cars up. Whoa! Too much curb for Andrew Kinsella. Keeps it out of the wall, but just barely. And that, we're going to watch it from above. Oh, he is tearing up the underside of that car, trying to get over the sausage curbs now to get it going once again. Dawson, it almost looked psychological, like that little peak from Quinn just kind of it rattled him.
Yeah, you know, you got to try as a driver not to be rattled by the little things, but boy, you know, you get in them tracks following somebody, it just proves to be really difficult.
Shook him out of his boots. Liam Quinn now gets himself back into 6 after losing it momentarily. It's been a nice run for Quinn. Started 6, back into 6. Solid day for him if he could just bring it home. We are only on lap 12, though. Not even halfway through this race yet.
Yeah, plenty of action for these drivers, and we haven't even gotten to that first pit stop, you know. I mean, and you're looking at how much these cars are sliding, and some of these guys, I wonder if, you know, with as quick as these pit stops are.
Speaking of which, sorry, Ollie Turkin has a spin. I was just about to comment that he was keeping Schwitter honest at about 2.5 seconds, but watch as we ride on board. Once again, we've seen this a number of times. Turn 1 and 2 seem to be a very nefarious combo for this IndyCar.
Wait, I can't explain that. This has been really weird.
Yeah, they come in there pretty hot, but I guess just the way the momentum of that car swings through. And look at this. Johan Vanderbilt, because of that mistake from Turkin, he is on the attack, looking for second place. Coming down to the casino hairpin. Don't think he's close enough to have a go. He's just going to wait in line. And here's that critical part. Getting the power down. Getting in the slipstream on the backstretch. Oh! Big old wiggle there, Dawson.
Vanderbilt, he knew he had a chance. If he got out of that corner really well, he'd have a shot at making a move going into that final chicane. But just a little too eager on the power.
Vanderbilt exercising a greedy right foot, and it bites him. Thankfully, he keeps the car pointed forward, and he's going to have to recollect himself to have another go. Can't make too many mistakes like that, because you can see in the background, that's Ollie Kwalka.
Boy, you know, we talk about the consistency and how much that can help you. Ollie, so far, has been a great example of that, starting 10th. Great start, got his way up, and now just outside of that podium spot. Boy, if he keeps this going, he could have a really nice race on his hands.
Yeah, he's got to keep this up to the end, though. He is definitely, so far, impressing me. Only interesting note from Kingsbury. Remember, he ran into the wall as Ray Kingsbury, who ran into the wall coming through turn 4, that he just touched the wall. Well, apparently he got a 0x from that, and his spotter told him he had too much damage. That's how fragile these Indy cars can be. Watch Fabian Jungbluth, who's actually transferred over from the Nissan, the prototype over in the iRacing Camel GT series. Another high downforce car, Henry Bennett, giving him a run. Oh, and he's got a fantastic run. Looks to the inside, making it look easy. Can he hold on to it into the braking? Solidly. So move Henry Bennett up to 7th. Whoa, and who was that? Tam. Tam with a big problem. And I think there was contact with the Wall of Champions this time. Oh, maybe not. Canadian in his home race manages to avoid a little bit more embarrassment, but not enough. He gets it going back in 10th spot. Lap 15 now. Still, we're seeing no takers on the pit stops.
Yeah, we should be just entering that pit window here in about a couple laps here. So I wonder if you'll see somebody take that opportunity to maybe get out of some heavy traffic and get some fresh tires and make that time up on a clean track.
We ride on board with David Burns. As we watched that pass down the backstretch, one thing I noticed was the difference in top speed. I suspect some of that is due to the maybe different downforce levels, but also, can they change the gearing in these cars? Can that affect how quick you are in a straight line?
But yeah, these cars, man, when you look at, if you get on iRacing, you can go to the garage, it's overwhelming. You know, you have tires, chassis, dampeners, and drivetrain. The drivetrain too, very complex. You can gain and lose a lot of speed there. So yeah, there's plenty of changes you can make to impact your car in the low speed and getting up to speed, and even that top speed too.
We're watching a replay of Johan Vandenbeld. What happened here? Ooh, a little bit wide through turn 2. Ollie Kwaka sneaks to the inside, says thank you, don't need invited twice. And going from 10th now to the podium does the DH driver. The only bad news for Ollie is he's now 15 seconds back from Jan Schwitter. Before, it was 12, so he is losing time on the leader. He could still gain ground on Ali Turkin, though. Oh, and meanwhile, as Johan gets it back down into the Wall of Champions. Nice move, but it's going to switch back again. Up to turn 1. Bad exit for Johan Vandenbelt. Ollie Kwaka not going to take this one lying down. Great run off of turn 2. He's got the inside. Johan Vandenbelt outbreaks him into turn 3. Hits both apexes cleanly. Boy, this is a spirited fight.
Boy, we love seeing this fight, but as these two drivers, you're losing time to Schwitter and Ollie. So I don't know if this is a great idea, but boy, what a show. Good driving for both drivers.
Well, they're certainly not close enough to try and leapfrog them in the pit stop. So with them being nearly 6 seconds back, they're not too terribly close, although I guess if they work together, they have enough race left that maybe they could outpace Ollie. The bigger worry for me is actually Michel Rugenbrink, excuse me, sitting in 5th behind these two.
Just behind Rugenbrink is Liam Quinn, who we've seen plenty of speed out of today.
You see the black and green machine of Liam Quinn. He's actually got about 4 seconds over last round's winner, Henry Bennett. Bennett, not a bad showing today. He qualified much better than he is now, though. He sits in 7th. He started this race on the 2nd row in 3rd.
For having to take an extra pit stop so far, that's pretty impressive to get it all the way up to the 7th place. So great run so far if he can just keep moving his way up.
Yeah, definitely a damage limitation day for Henry Bennett. if he wants to try and go for the championship. Closer battles through the field include Burns and Tam. Sitting about a second apart, this is for the 10th position. Up ahead of them, you can see on our graphic, Teemu Ronco has not given up. He's still out there, but he's running in 9th. He's had multiple spins. And in fact, is it Jungbluth that he's on the attack with? No, that's Jungbluth behind him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I believe we have a pit stop. Turkin. So, Turkin seems to be the first of our takers. And it's a long, long pit lane that he has to go down. And eventually hits his marks. He wasn't near anybody. I'm not sure if he was in traffic and maybe that influenced him to come in to go for an early call. No dramas in the pits, and I did not see tires. Oh, excuse me, he was on the jack, so he did take tires. Richard Tam, the next car in the pits. He's now finally in. Goes up on the jacks. As cars stream on by, he tumbles down the order. That'll change as more drivers come in for their stops. Looks like he's going to exit 15th, and our leader is in now. Schwitter has looked almost infallible today. Haven't really seen any mistakes. His pace has been extending gap. 4 cars coming in behind him. Johan Vanderbilt, Ollie Kwaka, both coming in at the same time.
Rugen Brink as well, going to follow them in. A really popular time to be on pit road.
So it looks like everybody is just going to come in on the early strategy, at least so far of our leaders. Are any of our leaders going to stay out? Bennett is in. Ronco is in. Oh, and I'm not seeing Jungbluth. Did something happen to Jungbluth that we missed? Checking to see if I can find it. I don't see... maybe he just
disappeared.
Had an issue. Wonder if... Well, there is that 20 incident limit. Maybe Jungbluth was cutting it a little too close. Meanwhile, as we watch, Kwaka, Vandenbelt both have come out. Schwitter as well. And the battle continues. Two clubs here that make up a lot of good drivers on iRacing. The Benelux Club for Johan Vandenbelt. And of course, Diach for Ollie Kwaka. Looking back at Rugen Brink. He's got to deal with Liam Quinn, who's been hounding him. And we have information on what happened to Fabian. He just did not have a good enough connection as we ride on board. Bit of a try. Oh no, trying to save it. Liam Quinn keeps his car from running into Michel Rugenbrink. But in the process, he loses his spot to Henry Bennett. He was thinking about it, Dawson, and then it all went pear-shaped.
You know, I think he might have... Yeah, I think he had the brakes on him, but just realized he was going to slide right up into him and locked him up. Luckily, staying right in that little grass patch there, not sliding into the way of oncoming traffic.
King, the final of our cars that need to pit. As he comes in from 9th spot, he'll lose a few along the way as Tam goes by. That's the first real major mistake I feel like we've seen from Quinn today. He's otherwise been pretty good. Over David Burns, Richard Tam. Very close fight here for 9th spot. They're coming through turns 3 and 4 now, up through 5. Burns doing all he can to get his nose under that gearbox to give him an opportunity. Bit wide through 6. Ooh. Gets into the back of him. Contact, Dawson.
Boy, he definitely had the speed, but he's got a little more patient.
Just timed it out wrong, it looks like. Maybe didn't expect Tam to have an error in that corner. The big worry here is whether or not he's damaged that wing. Schwitter puts in the fastest lap of the race now. The 1:21.2. Basically schooling the field out there today. 15 seconds between himself and Turkin in second place. With pit stops done, let's give you a rundown through the field, starting with, of course, our leader, Jan Schwitter, up at the front. We mentioned that he has extended an impressive gap over the field, and we're only partway through this thing. Ali Turkin has been holding station, but not without being threatened a few times. Still, he's coming out looking like he's in good shape. Ali Kwaka just will not give up the fight with Johan Vanderbilt. These two are 3rd and 4th, respectively. And they can afford to fight at this point because it's about 10 seconds back to Michel Rugenbrink. Rounding out our top 5. What's the back half of the top 10 looking like there, Dawson?
Well, we have Henry Bennett, who qualified 3rd and now has his car all the way up into 6th. Definitely, he has a chance here to maybe get it up past Rugenbrink. And I don't know, maybe if he can catch Kwaka and Vanderbilt, might have a chance at a podium after that early race mistake. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Liam Quinn, he's been really consistent all day, and right now sits in 7th, started 6th, so not a bad run for Quinn. We go to Timu, who has definitely had the speed, but just a couple mistakes, sitting in 8th. He started out on that front row in 2nd, so tough day so far for him. Richard Tam going to be in 9th, and then David 3rd Degree Burns going to sit in 10th.
There's your top 10. We do have some DNFs. Matt Kingsbury, Zach Novak, Ray Kingsbury, Sarah Dove, and Eric Mick was a did not start as well. Both Kingsbury brothers having a bit of a bad day out there.
That entire team, that Novak and Matt Kingsbury, that team that was sitting up on top, and Last Lap Motorsports having a really bad day.
Do you think maybe that might be a setup thing, with it being the whole team kind of struggling? That maybe they got a good qualifying set, but really didn't get something that'll last the race?
Yeah, I think it's probably set up. I know both of them definitely oval guys, and we'll see how well that fares for them. They're pretty good on that oval. We saw 2 weeks ago they've been doing a great job, and we're really the class of the field as much as I thought. But this week, just with the left and right not really working out as well.
Ooh, the battle for 5th heating up. Michel Rugenbrink needs to worry about Henry Bennett. And then Henry Bennett, if he starts to fight, he could bring Liam Quinn into this thing. Remember, Quinn lost a position to Henry into the hairpin just a few laps ago. Made a mistake under braking, gave away the spot. And as the 3 of them accordion together down into turn 6, Quinn looking much, much closer now. Quinn starting to go onto the attack. He's got to run. He's in the slipstream down the backstretch. Defensive move from Henry Bennett, hugging that inside line, comes back to the racing line. Quinn has to lock him up to stay out of the gearbox of Bennett. Now down into Casino. Lock up this time from Rugenbrink. If anybody has not watched iRacing before, you can't flat spot the tires yet. There's been talk of that, but it does heat the tires up a little. Have to worry about how much you're wearing them out doing that. Ooh, what a mistake from Bennett. Beautiful little donut to get it going once again, but let's look at the replay. While we're watching this, I can report that Bennett is lost out to Ronco, who got by him on the front stretch. Now watch onboard Quinn. Great heads up here from the UK&I driver, Dawson.
Yeah, you know, I think he saw that Bennett was catching him down this backstretch and knew maybe just to take it a little bit easy into this next corner.
Whew. Inches between them through that second apex. So that moves Quinn up to 6. Rugenbrink holds on to 5th, but these two were the ones that were fighting originally. And actually, well, Quinn has dropped back slightly. He's about 1.1, so he's going to have to try and work hard to get up to there. Third place will not let up. Quokka and Vanderbilt. Lap 26 out of 37 currently. We ride on board with Vanderbilt. This has been a decent showing from the fan belt, starting 5th, currently in 4th. Been a little bit outshone by Quokka. He's trying to change that, of course. Come up to turn 6. Ooh, wide up into that corner for Quokka, and that hurts his braking. You can see just how much that helps Vanderbilt. Closed it to less than a car length between them. As they come to the backstretch, though, they accordion back apart. Vanderbilt does not have an answer into 8. Could he get something into the casino hairpin?
Gotta remember here right now, Vanderbilt in that dirty air. It's gotta be really hard to maneuver through that and not let this car push wide.
Oof. Speaking of which, Vanderbilt pushing the limits of things. You could see all the smoke as he tried to get that car turned into the hairpin. Gonna get the slipstream down by the rowing lake, but he runs out of track before they hit the binders into the wall of champions. Both of them nice and clean through there. And as this battle is going on, they're about 7 seconds behind Turkin. Turkin a whole 17 behind Schwitter. Haven't seen a whole lot of him this race, but Thomas Kick, the Strudelmeister, as Bill likes to call him, still running in 14th. He's a lap down, unfortunately. Oh, and we put the put the cameras on him, and the commentator's curse, of course, immediately arises. But making that Indy car look suspiciously like something from another series. Oh, and Richard Tam, I thought he got a position, but that has switched back. David Burns gets back by him by turn 5. And actually, how did this one happen? Looks like it was a mistake as we look at the replay here. Oh, so it's been a back and forth fight between them, actually. It switches. That's Tam and the blue machine. Trying to defend, coming down into the Senna S. That's David Burns in the Williams car. Goes the long way around. Isn't done yet. Tam comes back to the racing line. A little bit too much curb. We've seen a lot of that today. Gives the opportunity. Then what happens here? Oh, he manages to stay ahead, actually. So, David Burns with a hard-fought battle to get himself into 9th. So an interesting note about that Ferrari liveried Indy car that we saw from Kick. There actually was a Ferrari engine that was toyed with an Indy car, I think for the 500. I want to say in either the late 80s or early 90s. Little known fact there. Never actually raced, I believe. Oh, and Quinn is past Rugenbrink somewhere along the line that we missed. Pass for position, let's see here. Down into turn 1 yet again. Bad exit off of that wall of champion chicane. Gives Quinn the opportunity he's been patiently waiting for, Dawson. We've talked about the consistency of Quinn. This is, besides him and Quokka, it's hard to choose on the drive of the race because Quinn has just been fantastic out there.
Yeah, and I mean, Quinn's starting 6th. He's only up 5, so on paper it doesn't look great. But man, we've seen a great showing from him, and just keeping that car going the right direction. Just a great run.
Fighting hard. One major mistake, spinning the car, coming down into the hairpin, but kept it out of things, regathered himself, and has got the spot back that he was trying for at that point. As we look at Rugenbrink being demoted to 6, he's got to worry because behind him, Teemu Ronco catching up quick. The fast but erratic Teemu Ronco. And a mistake, another mistake from Rugenbrink is going to hand it back to Teemu. This recovery drive from the Finn has been slow going this race, sadly. This does move Ronco up into 6th spot at least. Now down to 7 laps to go. And with that pass made, I'm checking to see if we've got any other battles. Closest one besides that really is still for 3rd. Old reliable. It's Johan Vanderbilt and Ollie Quokka. Well, we talked about Bennett. Oh, and that car that we saw off, that was Thomas Kick, actually. Don't think he hit anything. Gets it going once again. But we talked about thinking that it was an unscheduled stop for Bennett and that was way too early. Well, Dawson, he's finally taken it, and it looks like he returns in 8th.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, definitely a lot of time lost here, but maybe you can get it back going. And like we said, the points leader so far, you got that win at Michigan, so it's just damage control at this point.
I was just going to use that exact phrase, because you think about it, an extra full pit stop, and he's still in 8th position. That's not a bad showing by Bennett. That makes you wonder, though, what could have been if he hadn't have had to make that extra stop.
Looking at lap times, he's right up there with Ali and Schwitter, so...
Oh, and P3 at it again. Quokka Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt looking to the inside. Quokka locks him up, manages to keep it out of the grass, and keeps his rival behind. The Dutchman still threatening. Makes him go defensive through 3 and 4. Isn't able to do anything with it. Now through 5. Following closely in the wake. Once again, holding off that inside Ollie Quokka. Things really heating up now. And a great run out of turn 7. The fan belt has got one of his best opportunities yet. Staying within the tire tracks. They've come back to the line. Isn't able to send one up the inside. Gonna have another go. He's getting many bites of the apple. Quokka each time fending off that inside line. Over under potentially, and he just can't get the speed as he's balked on the exit by Quokka. Johan Vanderbilt stays back in 4th. Meanwhile, we understand something happened to Kinsella because he is in his pit stall. Let's look at the replay here. Well, this is bizarre. Did he maybe just get a black screen?
Yeah, I think that's what he typed it into the chat. His screen just went black on him.
Oh, disappointment for Kinsella. That's pretty much effectively taken him out of the race. Meanwhile, this battle's still going on. Quokka ahead of Vanderbilt. Down into 6. Vanderbilt now just stalking him, waiting for another chance. He had about 3 or 4 tries at it. He's backed off, keeping about 2 car lengths between himself and the DH driver. starting to run out of laps, Dawson. Is he going to get more desperate here, potentially?
And I think as time goes on, I think you take more greedy moves at that position. But I wonder, where do you think they're at with push to passes? If he's, you know, still saving them, maybe waiting. I don't know here. He's got a good chance this time.
Ducks to the outside. He's got a much better run. How brave is Ollie on the brakes? Not brave enough, because Johan sneaks through, and he's got it. Move Johan Vanderbilt up onto the podium. That's one thing I would love us to get here in the booth is telemetry on who's used how many push to pass. Not sure if iRacing's listening on that one or if it's even feasible, honestly. Look at the gap that Johan is starting to pull away. It looks like he was maybe held up a little bit there, Dawson.
I wonder if that dirty air, the fact that he was still able to keep running and catching Polka, now he's got that clean air and maybe put down some good laps and start to step away. I would have guessed that this isn't done. We're going to see a couple more moves.
Meanwhile, Ronco off again. And he's going to lose out to Liam Quinn. This is into turn 6. He's on the maximum attack team. And, oh no, this wasn't his own fault. This was lap traffic. Was caught out by, I think that was Kick. Did not expect him to be that slow through that corner, and unfortunately it sent him around. Oh, and Michelle Rugenbrink. Down into the hairpin. Looks like this was accelerating out of it. Yep. We've seen this before. Drivers getting greedy on that right foot. Watch Bennett's view. And there the rear goes. Nicely done by Henry Bennett. Moves himself up to 6th now. With him being about 6.7 behind Quinn, unless we see a mistake from Quinn or any of the drivers ahead of him, this may be as far up as we see the 007 climb.
And Timu's day is done. He has retired the car.
Ooh, that damage must have been a little bit too much. Quite a few retirements now at this point. I believe we've only got 14 cars left on track of the 19 that started.
And honestly, with as many spins and stuff as we've seen, with as tight as the confines are around this place, it's kind of impressive.
We said that attrition would possibly play a factor, and it has, but yeah, I agree. Not nearly as dramatically as maybe we expected. Laps now dwindling down. If we could get the cameras on our leader, because boy, he just really hasn't had a lot of screen time. There's been no reason to show Jan Schwitter. He's getting ready to put a lap on James King. Last car in the lead lap at the moment. Schwitter throwing down a marker in the sand. Now, where did Schwitter finish at Michigan? I remember he was showing well at certain points.
Let's see if we can go and find that.
But I have to wonder if he had a good finish at the Oval, and with this win today, could we see Schwitter potentially take over the points lead? And does this mean Schwitter is the one we need to watch for the rest of the season? Schwitter, of course, another one hailing from that DH club. Whenever you watch the World Cup races where the clubs gather together to try to race for group glory instead of personal glory, DH almost always one of the top runners. Comes up to the hairpin now. He's got roughly 27 seconds over Ali Turkin. Hasn't been a second a lap, but it has been an impressive bit of pace from Schwitter. And we wondered whether or not the battle for third would split apart. Well, not really. Quokka holding on to the back of Vandenbeld, but at the same time, he's not very close to him right now. This is going to be the one to watch all the way to the finish line, I get the feeling. Woo! Vandenbeld really pushing the limit coming out of the corner. I'm amazed he didn't lose more time. Although you're seeing a slipstream. He is going defensive. Quokka very late on the brakes around the outside, but he clatters over the curbs. He's going to get a cut course penalty, and he will pay for that as Vandenbeld accelerates away, and there you see him drop back. Let's watch the replay on that. We talked about this, Dawson, that going too wide is also hard in these chicanes.
Yeah, there's barely enough room for two cars to go side by side through there, and that's just a really tough break there.
White flag has since come out. Jan Schwitter has now only got that single chicane to go that we just saw bit the poor driver of Ali Quokka. And even if Jan did spin it here, he could probably limp this car home if he wanted to. But no such drama for Jan Schwitter. The DH driver is going to take round 2 here at Montreal in the Absolute Beginners Indy League. Turkin is just now coming out of the hairpin. That is how far back he is. He comes to the final chicane. Turkin mostly running a race on his own. He had to fend off a few comers early on, but it was a quiet one to take a second place for Ali Turkin here. And then that fight for the podium. Oh, it's going to come down to the line. Johan Vandenbeld bad through the final corner. Here comes Ali Quokka, but I think it's too little too late. It goes to Vandenbeld. Wow. He put himself under pressure there. Nice one from Leon Quinn. Getting a top 5 here today and a recovery from Henry Bennett. 2 stops and still gets a 6th place. Michel Rugenbrink probably ruined what could have been. Some mistakes sending him backwards into 7th. Of course, David Burns there finishing 8th. Richard Tam going to finish 9th, and then rounding out the top 10, James King is, I believe, the last car on the lead lap. 10 cars on the lead lap. It's a lot more difficult to finish on the lead lap here on the road side, especially on longer races. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel, come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races that you can catch here on GSRC. Welcome back to Montreal. We just watched round 2 in the Absolute Beginners IndyCar League held here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Jan Schwitter managed to take the win, but we don't think he's going to take the points lead, actually. We'll get to that in a second. But a dominant victory for the DH driver means that Ali Turkin was a whole 28 seconds back at the line. Johan Vandenbelt really had to fight for this podium. Ali Kwaka, drive of the race, if you ask me, going from 10th to 4th and then battling for the podium all the way to the line and still managed to keep the car clean. Liam Quinn rounds out our top 5 with Henry Bennett, who we think is going to lead the championship. He took first last round and 6th. Jan got 8th at Michigan. So Michelle Rugenbrink finishes behind him in 7th, and then David Burns in 8th, Richard Tam 9th, and James King rounds out your top 10.
Michael Haffeldason going to finish 11th, Thomas Kick 12th, Fabian Youngblood 13th, Timu Ronco we saw have a little bit of trouble and his day was ended just before the finish. He's going to sit 14th, Andrew Kinsella 15th, Matt Kingsbury and Zach Novak, the two teammates both crashing out 24 laps down, 16th and 17th, then Ray Kingsbury 18th, Sarah Dove 19th, and a no-show for Eric Nick.
Well, we have Jan Schwitter waiting to talk to us after his win today. Jan, first of all, congratulations. I'm going to take a guess that the roadside is your preferred of the two disciplines.
Yeah, thank you first. That was an awesome race. So, yeah, the roadside is definitely my favorite. So, on the ovals, I will have a bit to struggle, but on the road, I will have a good performance, I think.
So, what country do you hail from? We see that you're in the DH club.
From Switzerland.
Ah, okay. A Swiss driver, then. Well, it looks like you won't be leading the championship. We don't think if Simon and Poindexter have done the points right, because you had an 8th and a 1st, and we have a 6th and a 1st for Henry Bennett. But even still, after your performance there at Michigan and the way that you were able to dominate here, are you thinking about the championship at all?
Yeah, in front of the season, I was saying with my teammate Ollie Quokka, the team championship will be nice, but driver championship top 3 will be good, I think, because the ovals won't be really hard for me.
The next one is going to be a lot steeper than what we saw at Michigan going to Homestead. Have you ever run there before?
Yeah, I run Homestead a lot because IndyCar Oval Fixed is my other side, but I'm still better on road, so let's see what I can do at Homestead.
All right. We hope to see you in 2 weeks' time. And again, congratulations.
Thanks.
That was Jan Schwitter, our winner out there today. And unfortunately, I don't see any other of our drivers having shown up for interviews, which surprises me. But regardless, they put on a good show today. Dawson, I enjoyed jumping in for Bill today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun having you here. I did a great job. Can't wait for next week. In 2 weeks' time, March 3rd will be the next race. We'll get to see the guys go back to the oval. It should be plenty of action.
Certainly will. A lot of side-by-side racing there on those high banks. But in the meantime, we, of course, want to thank the Absolute Beginners League for bringing us on board this new series. We've covered their Skippy series, the Neagle Cup, the Formula Neagle Cup for so many years that it's refreshing to see these guys in different cars and see how they fare. And of course, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Dawson, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can also check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. As Dawson mentioned, we're going down to Florida, up from the Great White North to the sunny skies of Florida. That'll be Saturday, March 3rd at 2:45 p.m. Eastern at Homestead, Miami. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.